Welcome back. President Trump met with the NRA in the Oval Office yesterday. Now, Washington is wondering if he's backing away from gun control. Hours after the meeting, NRA lobbyist Chris Cox tweeted out this: "I had a great meeting tonight with President Trump and Vice President Pence. We all want safe schools, mental health reform, and to keep guns away from dangerous people. The president and vice president support the Second Amendment, support strong due process, and don't want gun control." President Trump responded later with this tweet: "Good, great meeting in the Oval Office tonight with the NRA." This comes just one day after the president stunned a group of bipartisan lawmakers during a meeting on gun safety earlier in the week by saying, quote, "Take the guns first, go through due process second." Joining us now to react is Axios political reporter Alexi McCammond. Alexi, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us. Your reaction on the meeting yesterday?
Well, those two tweets that you just put up on the screen suggest that it took only a little over a day for Chris Cook from the NRA to sort of persuade Trump otherwise from the stance he was taking in front of the cameras with senators and lawmakers, where he seemed to support stricter gun control. And I think that speaks to Trump's background as a businessman, right? He makes the best deals he thinks possible in the moment. And when you get him alone in a room or with Mike Pence behind cameras, it's easier to persuade him. And I think that worked to Chris Cook's advantage.
I don't know. I'm going to push back on that because the president never, from the beginning, said that he wanted to change anything specific or big about guns other than the bump stocks, right? The bump stocks ban. And he said maybe raising the age to 21. Beyond that, he didn't say he was going to threaten the Second Amendment in any way.
Well, of course. I mean, he's not going to use language that would suggest he's going to threaten the Second Amendment. That would not do well with his base or his supporters or Republicans at large. But I think what we saw when he met with lawmakers was a willingness to consider more comprehensive legislation than we've seen him support in the past. And that included things like background checks and stricter things on that front.
So I think that's different. That's background checks. That's making sure the rules that are on the books are followed. And then you've got, obviously, mental health. I mean, those are the things the president has been talking about. He never said he wants to attack the Second Amendment.
No. Alexi, well, we don't know. Here's what we don't know. We don't know what Chris Cox means by gun control. We don't.
Right.
Again, it's ill-defined. He didn't say, if he'd come out in a tweet and said, President Trump said he was going to do this. We simply don't know what that means when the NRA, and the NRA has a different definition of gun control than President Trump or really the average person, because the NRA would push back against the Toomey Manchin bill, which was, again, universal background checks. It didn't pass in 2013. President Trump in that meeting the other day did seem to be in favor of improving the background check database, pushing through universal background checks, even raising the age to 21 for long guns. So, again, we just have to be really careful because the context is not known with that tweet from Chris Cox at the NRA.
Right. Well, and same with Trump's tweet. It was pretty short and vague, and I think this is an ongoing conversation, and it should be, right? It's a difficult issue to attack, and I think we're seeing the president listening to both sides, holding listening sessions with students, meeting with the NRA. So it's clear that he's doing what he can to be as informed as possible, and that's what we should look for moving forward, is more specifics from the president and the White House about what it is that he wants to support after he's had these discussions with different folks.
Yeah, meanwhile, companies are taking the matters into their own hands. LL Bean, now the fourth major retailer to say that it is no longer going to sell rifles to buyers under the age of 21. Alexi, what's your take on so many companies, Walmart, LL Bean, Dick's Sporting Goods, all coming out and saying, you know what, the law is what it is, but we have our own laws here, and we're going to say we raise the age from 18 to 21.
Right. Well, they're clearly moving into this more political territory than maybe we've seen in this same significance before. And it's clear that they're sort of responding to this social pressure that they're seeing either on social media or in the students speaking on TV or whatever it is from their consumers. And they're sort of trying to fill this void from what they view as governmental gridlock on the issue by taking a political stance and boycotting the NRA.
It's not clear. It's not clear that this is legal, though. When you have companies, and by the way, Dick's, the main chain, stopped selling these so-called assault weapons 6 years ago. Walmart stopped selling them 3 years ago. So they had already stopped selling these. But when you say we sell shotguns and rifles, under the law, in most places it's the age of 18, but when you have retailers saying we're not going to sell them to you until you're 21, expect to have that challenge to the Supreme Court.
Yep.
Right, and I guess that's something that we'll see if Trump ends up increasing the age for those things. But also, I'm glad you brought up the legality, because we saw that in Georgia with Delta, right? The state legislature is sort of pushing back on them politically by rescinding the tax benefits Delta would receive from the state's tax plan because of the way they're treating the NRA. So I think we're sort of seeing this cycle where it's a give and take of money, it's a give and take of political support and backlash, and that could really hurt companies in the long run.
That was $38 million in tax breaks.
Yeah, and I think that even great proponents of the Second Amendment think that that kind of government intervention is foolish and stupid.
I don't know about Georgia, though, taking away the tax breaks.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, I don't think that's right.
Well,
why are they getting involved in this like that?
Let me let my libertarian side come out here. Why in the world is Delta getting a $50 million tax? Small businesses in Georgia aren't going to get that. Small businesses in Georgia aren't going to get it. Consumers still have to pay a gas tax.
Oh, you're questioning why they're getting the break in the
I'm talking about why is Delta...
Because it's not like Delta's going to leave Georgia anyways. They're built there. Their communities there.
So
they don't need a $50 million tax
But the fact is, Delta went to the state legislature and said, give me this tax break. And now they're playing politics with the NRA, and the legislature's turning around.
This is a debate that will take more than 3 hours to have about why certain companies getting some tax breaks.
I can do it in 2 minutes. They shouldn't get any of these benefits.
Why is Delta getting it?
Because Georgia wants to reward a company that has been a great job creator in the state and wants to keep the company.
I'm uncomfortable with the state saying now we're taking away the tax break because of the NRA. I don't like that. That's what I'm uncomfortable with.
One thing I do want to point out in that Chris Cox tweet about the NRA meeting. He is trying to reassure people because he says President and Vice President support the Second Amendment, support strong due process. And then there's the gun control comment, but he's trying to push back on what the president said when Donald Trump stated clearly more than once, take firearms first and then go to court.
Kellyanne Conway yesterday said he was talking specifically about Nicholas Cruz and about the mentally challenged.
That is...
I had a problem with it. I pushed back on her. But she kept saying, Maria, I'm going to say it for the third time, this is not, he is not blowing off the Constitution.
But the way that he said it, he was most definitely chucking...
In that room.
Chucking the Bill of Rights into the Hudson River. Or into the Potomac. What he said, you don't regulate and you don't create laws based on one murderer. I understand. Mike Pence was talking about gun violence restraining orders, which is due process. It's a new way to give people process to take guns out of the hands of people who are a danger. That's what he was talking about. That is due process.